record. Okay, so now I'm going to pull up the file. Which is here, download. I downloaded it today. And you should have obviously seen this on the upload platform earlier today. So welcome and good morning everybody to today's lecture. And the title of today, the first part, is about black men from a housing estate in North London, bucking the stereotype. Question mark. That will be for you to decide. In the context of gangs and prison life, which Kalima, our guest, will continue with that, a very important lecture later this morning. Myself and Mr. Jerome Washington, Ms. Monica, a professional musician based in Sweden, are going to tell you a little bit about our life. I grew up on an estate in North London, Kilburn, born and bred in Paddington, children of first generation migrants from the Caribbean. And they'll be illuminating things about how we negotiated the many of life's challenges living in a low-income housing estate in London in the 1970s. The second aim will be to challenge any assumptions or preconceived ideas about black males. We want you to actually ask that of yourselves, really, as future health professionals. You can work with people from all walks of life. But black males, by and large, get a really raw deal in terms of society's perceptions. Maybe things are changing, because I'm an older generation now. Maybe things are changing for the younger ones. And Rowena, colleague from the physiotherapy team, I wanted her learners to really come to terms with any deep-seated prejudices that you may have from upbringing. I have my own hypothesis that we all are one step away of knowing someone with the most racist, hateful attitude. We know somebody, a family member. So when it surfaces in society generally, we can be very queasy. Oh, really? Oh, wow, how terrible. But we all know one relative who said the most horrible thing about black people. But we don't out them. We just think maybe they're old, or maybe that's them. Maybe if they don't say it much enough, or if I don't talk to them much, that will just disappear. Aim number 3, to explore how our occupational identities have been shaped by our upbringing and impacted by the community environment that we were part of. Aim number 4, to explore how the social systems of that time acted as a process or vehicle for survival. A social system is a community. Within that community are schools, hospitals, community centres, churches, police, prison cells, corner spaces where marijuana spliffs are built, or where other hardcore drugs are taken. Whatever the system is, how did Jerry and myself, and many others like us, British born, how did we negotiate that and acted it and survive, if you like, whether it was financially, socially, psychologically, physically. You're going to be working with many black males who might have walked the same path that Jerry and myself did. But you're going to be involved in an occupational therapy setting in a well-being capacity. And the other aim is to assess some of the idea of nature, nurture. You know, how have the sum total of what we're born with, the capacity, plus the nurture, how we were raised and how we were supported, and how that has helped us to fulfill our occupational potential. So we're using a lot of occupational justice terms here, occupational science terms, and these will come alive in your essay. Hi.
Sorry, you wanted to get sound to him, or you wanted to be able to hear him?
We'd like to hear Jerry. Mr. Washington.
Can he hear us?
Microphone check. Mr. Washington, can you hear us? Hip hip! Hip hip! We can hear you, Jerry. Oh, there's a bit of an echo, so we're going to hopefully correct that. There's a bit of an echo.
Can you speak again for us?
So we have an echo. So while that echo is being sorted out, I will continue then. I'll continue. So slide number 2, please, gentlemen. Slide number 2, please, gentlemen. Slide number 2. Small group activity. Small group activity. Yeah. What social stereotypes exist for black males? Now, I had a poll everywhere, but what I'd like you to do is get up, sit next to someone that you haven't sat to in your life. I don't care if it's a level 5 person, level 7, I don't care if it's a man or a woman. Get up, get going, talk to somebody that you ain't spoken to in your life. Let's go. Give me 10 minutes. Make some notes. Oh, come on.
Jerry, can you hear me? I think the delay might be coming from your end. Have you got your mic open or something? Say that again, sorry? Sorry, can you, whatever you just said, can you put it in our chat, please? I can't hear you. You okay?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a web.
Oh yes, sorry about that. It might be the case actually. I tried to.
No issue.
It might be.
Are you speaking? I'm imagining you first.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, definitely. No duplicates, though. There's no duplicates of cheese, though. Jerry, can you speak again for me, please?
That's good. That's better.
That sounds better. That sounds better. One more time, please.
Yeah. 1, 2, test.
You've got echo cancellation on tunes.
1, 2,
I'm just gonna. Am I alright to leave this and come back in? Alright, guys, I'm just gonna leave and then come back in. So give me 2 seconds. Okay. Jerry, can you try one more time, please?
1, 2, test.
Yeah, I think it's something on your end, Jerry. I'm not quite sure. Is everything coming through your headset?
Yeah.
Speak again.
1, 2,
Daryl, speak again. You've muted it. That's not our side, is it?
I'm just actually reading this.
Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm gonna now get some feedback from you all. We're going to get some feedback, and just before I continue, I just really want to let you know, as we say all the time, this is a safe space, all right? So no judgments will be made against us all. We're all fallible. We've all got things going on in our life, and we've all come from a particular starting point.
1, 2.
So,
okay, that's great, Jerry.
Much of today's,
that's good, Jerry. Thank you.
Much of today's session then will be about time for reflection. You're going to be public workers. You're going to become occupational therapists. You're going to become employers, managers, chief executives. You're going to be sitting in rooms which are just white only, and it's going to take you to be brave enough to ask colleagues, why are we a white only room? What kind of a society do we live in? It's going to take you to do that. So if I'm sowing the seeds now with this inner reflection, so be it. Is that okay? All right, let's have some feedback around the room. Let's go.
I was just going to say that I noticed that in my placement, I was the only person of color in the whole section. So that made me just think is it we're going into people's homes, is it no type of representation of any person of color? I just thought it was quite ridiculous. And I'm a student, I was only there for 6 weeks, and then now that I'm born, it's nobody.
Okay.
Yeah, we were the same. Me and Zion was literally like Zion was a drug team.
So please, we've got conversation happening. One conversation. Let's go again.
Me and Zion was on the stroke team and I was in the neurological team, and that was the same like as students. We was only like the only like black students. There was a black lady, but she was like she wasn't doing the admin. It was anyone that was like in more of like the therapist type of role. But like say you go into people's homes and it's like understanding other people's culture and being able to relate to them. There's only so much that the other therapist can do.
Okay. Thank you for that feedback. Okay. Powerful. And what must that feel like? We'll definitely need to kind of be in touch with that, because these are two powerful feedbacks from your colleagues. You know, what must that feel like? Let's hear about some of the ideas you put down. The perception of black males. What kind of stereotypes exist? Let's go. Around the room. Let's go. Please, we're on the clock now, because you know we had technical problems.
We were thinking inner city deprived areas and leaving education at perhaps 16 or whichever statutory age, and not going on to further education, higher education.
Okay, there's something I'm going to interpret from that is like, you know, compared to other ethnic groups, probably, you know, they have a lower kind of education outcome compared to, say, the white majority. Okay, that's the trend that is there in terms of the data. Come in.
They're associated with drugs and being aggressive.
Associated with drugs, being aggressive, and yeah, I mean, life stereotypes. Yeah, keep going around the room now. Yes.
Bad behaviour leading to that the young boy's going to end up in prison. They've got no aspirations. They're not going to do anything in life. That's all they're going to do. That sort of thing. They're not going to change you if they go to prison. There's no way that they can turn their life around. It's just that's it, and that's the like tarnish for the rest of their life.
Thank you.
Absent fathers.
Absent fathers. Great. Absolutely. These are life stereotypes which are being pushed out as well, reinforced by data and the media. Okay, let's hear some from our white colleagues now, because we can't just have all the black ones shielding you. They can't just be shielding you now. Let's go.
Lower class.
Lower class, that kind of thing. Like, okay, what are they doing in my neighbourhood? Walking around? Yeah, they're gonna commit some robbery.
It's not as prevalent in positions of power.
Yeah, not as prevalent as positions in power. I took a train once from south of France, got to Paris. When I got to Paris, every worker that was going to do the cleaning, guess what, folks? Guess what? They were all black, yeah? Every worker, and it was like 100, and boy, I was like, whoa, that's deep. In Leeds, Beckett, every worker who does the cleaning, more or less, X%, 90s, is African. The higher up you go in the organisation, people of colour seem to be missing. Any more? Stereotypes. Let's go, please.
Most likely to be stopped.
Most likely to be stopped by who?
Essentially the police.
By the police. Yes, that's the truth.
I think they're more likely to get labelled as like troublemakers or delinquents or underachievers in school, and that actually like we did it in sociology, that actually if you're labelled as an underachiever, you're much more likely to underachieve because you're treated differently and you're treated as if you're going to do badly, which kind of just I can't think of the word.
Yes, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
This is brilliant. Any more? I'm going to really squeeze this. There's no one going to hide today. I ain't saying nothing. I'll keep my mouth shut. Yeah?
Are they maybe overlooked for diagnosis of things like ADHD and learning difficulties because of that premise of they are just being naughty?
I don't know if that's the reason, but again, it's difficult for most of society to get access to those resources, and even multiplied even more, it seems, if you're from a black and minority ethnic community. It's difficult to get the proper resources, to get the assessments, to get the resources and the support you need. Absolutely. Jerry, do you like the sound of the feedback you're getting from the learners? can't hear you again. I don't know what's happened. Oh.
Could you hear me?
Yes, can hear you. Yes, Kalima. Jerry.
Okay, so yeah.
Jerry, what about unplugging your device and maybe go hands-free? Kalima, did you like the feedback from what you heard from some of the learners?
Well, I suppose it's honest feedback, not necessarily that I'd like it, but it's honest feedback.
Yes.
If that's, yeah.
Yeah, that's that. Yes, honest, absolutely. Jerry, yep, it's gone again. Don't worry, we'll call IT. Okay.
So Jerry, you might want to come out, maybe log out and log back in. Sometimes that fixes your mic.
Okay. So, from the back, Jess, let's go. Ireland, give me that perspective. If 10 black people walk down the Ireland street in Ireland, what's the likely the community going to say?
Hands for your eyes.
Yeah, if you're in Dublin or Belfast, it's cool, yeah, but if you're in your nice neighbourhood, and they're bopping, and they're talking, they're twang, and they're doing their thing, come on. Hey, I just want to know the stereotype.
It's fine.
I just want to know the stereotype. Okay, no. Sorry, just come in.
On the flip side, well, certainly in schools there's kind of an expectation that you're going to be more athletic or sporty, and so some are shoehorned. Sometimes, again, like, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy, or is it that you push down that route instead of more traditional educational route? I don't know, but there's the kind of expectation that they will do really well in athletics or in sports or in PE from working in a school. That's very much alive, that kind of stereotype.
Well said.
Jerry's mic's working.
Hi Jerry, I think your mic's working. Can you hear? Can you come in and say something?
1 2 1 2 1 2.
Yeah. Okay. We've had some feedback, Jerry, while the tech was happening. Any thoughts and reflections on what you've heard from the learners?
Yeah, quite a lot. I like the answers and the response to your questions as stereotyped individuals. I'd like to ask a few of you all, despite your colour, there's a question for all. What do you think is a stereotyped black individual? Is it the clothing they wear? Is it facial expression? Is it just the skin color? Is it the fear of unknowing or the unknown? Because you do not know the individual, but yet you judge that person by skin color, the way they dress, the way they act, the way they talk, the way they live. That's a question I would put to all of you. I'd like some answers with this.
Okay. Again, let's give you a minute. Talk to the person next to you. Let's give Jerry some answers. Away we go. Okay, yes, stereotype. Okay, sorry to cut you, but this is really good now. Okay, I'm going to go to places where I haven't been before. So, back to the corner. Yes, let's go. For Jerry.
I'm back.
Yes, please, feedback, let's go.
When you were saying that, even if black people are dressed up in like suits and stuff like that.
Can you speak louder? Yeah.
You know, we were saying as well, if like they're clean cut and they haven't got dreads and stuff like that, that could, you know, help them not get profiled as much, but I don't think it'll make much of a difference at the end of the day.
Did you hear that, Jerry?
Just about, actually. I think she's going to have to just shout.
So, in a nutshell, Annie said, appearance doesn't even matter. Whether they got dreads, locks, whether they're clean cut with a nice haircut and a suit.
But it depends on who you're encountering, because if you have a clean cut and a suit, it might alter the way someone comes at you initially. But I think that because you're black, they're gonna wait and to pick out anything that you do. So because you have a suit and you're clean cut, they might appear to be friendly at first, but as soon as you get out of line or do anything, they'll have to check you.
Like a press you. Okay, let's have some more feedback. That's excellent. More feedback, please, from the back. Let's go. Please. Yeah. Good point. If you can all speak up louder to help each other, that would really be appreciated. Thank you. Any more feedback? Yes, we've got a few hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go.
Yeah, we were discussing the fact that I particularly witnessed the elderly moving away from, like across the street, from any black males that were wearing like hoodies, maybe perceiving them as being, don't know, hiding something, some kind of behaviour or some kind of thoughts. Whereas my peer was actually suggesting that maybe they're wearing that hoodie for protection because they know that's how they're perceived.
Thank you. Good point. Number 2.
There we go. It's interesting here because Polly was asking me how my children, how they find it. So I said to Polly, I'm lucky that my children haven't experienced something like that, not yet. But then Polly was saying, I should feel lucky. So that's a good point. I should just be like everybody.
Yeah.
Powerful. Okay, number 3. And then number 4, number 5.
We were thinking, like without even knowing them, people just assume we know what they're getting up to with their time, like engaging in criminal activity and stuff like that. Just assuming we know, you know what they're up to, but we don't know them.
Yeah, good point.
Hi Jerry, my name's Michelle.
Hi.
I'm a mature student and I was brought up way before, probably your generation. I was brought up though that somebody with a different skin tone to me was very different to me and to be avoided because they were culturally different and there were certain areas, I'm a Leeds person, there were certain areas of Leeds that I didn't go in because it wasn't culturally acceptable and I could be putting myself in danger.
Thanks for that truth, sharing that.
Honest,
Thanks for sharing that truth. That really means a lot, especially to the youngers who are here too. Might not be so.
Thank you for that story.
Yes.
Thank you for that story.
In terms of like black males, I definitely think them being stereotypes can be down to like who they're with. Say for example, the partner, the colour of skin of their partner. So a black male being with a black female, they're going to be stereotyped completely different to a black male they've been with like a white female. And maybe like the area that they live in. So, like you said, crossing the road, you could have an elderly couple that might see a black couple and then walk across the road. They'd start walking across the road, diverting before you even got to them. Or you can see the fear like they're closing, but then somebody else it could just be like, okay, and just carry on walking. But in terms of, I'd definitely say it's easier to be a black female than a black male. Right.
Good point. Thank you so much, Lewis.
Just in terms of like when you talk about the road crossing, like I've had that sort of feeling of it's like fear almost, where you feel feared, but for what reason? Because you're walking down the street. I've lived in North London myself. I lived in Kingsbury and Edgware, and there were some places where I was maybe a majority. So like even if there were white constituents, Asian constituents, you weren't looked at any different because everyone's walking down the road the same way about the business. I've come to Sheffield and maybe I've moved to 14. If I'm walking down the street just to go to the park, I had a group of white kids that are pressuring me. Where are you from? What do you do around here? I live there, mate. Oh, no, you don't. We know everyone in this area. It's just that lack of exposure. But then that lack of exposure then affects how they think, because they've not seen that or been around that. They don't know how to act. And it's the same with black people. Let's say you have some white people that go to Nigeria or Jamaica, they've never seen a white person, and they're going to be like fascinated, curious, but I don't feel like it's the same in terms of the fear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Brilliant point. Thank you, Jake. Jake, any perceptions, any thoughts, any reflections? How do your parents raise you up in your values? When they prepare you for the street, the community, what does your mum and dad say?
Well, mum and dad always just told me to be aware of it, because I'm mixed. I've seen both sides. But I've got my own side.
Tell me what you see from both sides. We're really curious.
Well, the white side is a bit different. It's like my brother's black. Obviously, I'm mixed race. It was a bit weird because they didn't really accept him into the family, which is a bit of a weird thing. I didn't really get that. But they're alright with it. They don't really like mingle the black side, though. It's a bit of a weird thing. Even though they're really nice. And like, we're all from Manchester, so it's all, you know, it's multicultural. But I don't really know, but I don't know what Lewis was saying. When I went down to Horsham, my girlfriend's from there, went to see her family. Weird. I was like following around stores and stuff. I've never done that before. So that was weird. And I was like stared at by a bunch of people with like windows. I don't know why, I'm not like intimidating, but it was weird.
Thanks so much for sharing that. And you can see the support you're getting from your colleagues here. First time, this is breaking news, folks. Your colleagues are, if you like, being prejudged. And this will happen as professionals too, in professional spaces. This might be the difference between being appointed for a senior role or not getting it.
I also think, like, in terms of like being brought up, you get told that you've got to work 10 times harder because of the colour of your skin. So like, you're going to be judged off of that. So even like when you're going out on placement and stuff like that, if you're the only black person there, you're going to feel like all eyes are on you because you're the only black person there. So there's eyes and ears everywhere in comparison to somebody else. Like, you just always feel like you're just on edge constantly because you could do something the same as a white person, but you're going to get in trouble. They're not. The way you say it's going to come across as more aggressive, and they could be out of line, and you're just correcting them or addressing the situation.
The critical concept there is called white privilege. It was written about and researched extensively in the 1970s by American sociologists. Look it up, because it's now being bandied about in the media as a woke thing, but it's actually a hardcore critical concept. A hardcore critical concept.
Yes.
Hardcore. So I really want to direct you to that reading. We're going to now move on to some of the content. But what we want to say is thank you. If there's anything you want to talk about afterwards to myself, even in the chat to Jerry later on, beyond the class, feel free. We're a resource for everyone. We're a resource for everyone. Some of you might have that jar tight and closed. I'm going to close that jar. I'm not going to open it up. That my dad's a racist or my gran can't stand blacks. That's you. You got to come to terms with that. Because me and Jerry, we know that. We know that every white person knows a racist in the bloodline. We know it.
Right.
We know it. Okay. As we move and groove, we're going to move to the slide. Rowena, can you hear us? And is the content flowing okay? Rowena, can you come onto the microphone and maybe just let us know that you can hear us and everything's going okay?
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Rowena, brilliant. Yes. Any reflections? Is this flowing okay? Is it going okay?
We're struggling to hear the conversations in the room amongst people. It's much more difficult. We can hear obviously Jerry and yourself, but we are struggling a little bit to hear the conversations.
Okay, well, to summarise, class, and good morning everyone in AHP Physiotherapy, 3 cheers. What we want to say is, if there's uncomfortable truths about what this is, in a nutshell, that's okay. This is what Rowena wants you to come to terms with as you go out to treat multicultural members of society. But be aware that by and large, black males get a hard kicking in, metaphorically, compared to any other ethnic group. Maybe our British Muslim colleagues, but we get a really raw deal. But you'll be surprised at our coping strategy, and you're going to learn about some of that today. Did they all hear that, Rowena?
They did indeed.
Okay.
Need the mic.
Cool. Cool. All right. Let's go through some of the content. So here's some of the content that I've put together last night when I was prepping this. And it's basic kind of demographic stats. Not all stats are kind of accurate. That's the criticality. When you look at published papers, don't always trust the data. Ask yourself, what does it mean? And criticize it with other data. But by and large, this is a trend line of male unemployment rates by ethnic origin, published by this body down here, the bottom right. And if you can look, the ones out in the front are black males, 18.2 per 100 men, followed by Asians, 10.8. Followed by other ethnic minority groups, and obviously white British. And this is proportion, yeah. There's barely 2 or 3 million. I might have it wrong. There's barely 2 or 3 million black people of colour in Britain out of a population of 60 million, and yet proportionately, unemployment rates are a lot higher per head. More.
We can't see your slides. It's not moving on.
Okay, I'll go back.
Thank you.
I'll reshare again.
Thank you.
Okay, tell me if you can see this slide here. Can you see this slide here?
Great.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next slide. Here we go. Arrest rates per 1,000 of the population. Arrest rates per 1,000. This is from the Policing and Justice Facts and Figures.gov.uk. And out in front, black other, followed by black Caribbean, and any other. Even white and black mixed race. Mixed. That means if your dad's white and your mum's black, you feel you might get... No, you're going to still be hoovered up. It's not easy. It's not right. It's not right. There's no pass. There's no the lighter the skin you are is Chris. I'm cool. I just need white friends to be cool. I don't need black friends. Blacks is trouble. We got a lot of mess how we're programmed, folks. There's a lot of mess out there. And we're carrying that mess in us as kind of coping strategy baggage. But this is the hard facts. The system, white majority system, produces this, i.e. the police force, i.e. the bosses who employ and recruit. That's why we need you as future leaders to ask your colleagues, why are there not any more blacks or Asians in this room here? What are we going to do about it? When you go for your job interview, you can ask, are you happy with the diverse workforce here? If I'm going to come here to work for you as an OT, are you an environment that embraces equality and diversity and inclusion? And you want that boss to say, of course we are, we're brilliant. That's a great question. We want you with us, and you say, well, if I did come, I'd like to learn more about equality, diversity, and inclusion as it affects patient care and the workforce. Why not? It's not mumbo jumbo from the woke society. It's real. And the reality is steeped in the blood of our history, our collective history, going back hundreds of years. Yeah. Can you see this slide here, everyone? Rowena, can you see this slide? Mental health today. Can you see this one?
Yeah.
Good. Good. Now again, if you look at this, the rates of detention per 100,000 under the Mental Health Act 1983 by broad ethnic group in England. All right, it's a few years old. But out in front, if you're black, you're X times proportionately much more likely to be sectioned under the Mental Health Act because you're a danger to yourself or you're a danger to others due to whatever range of symptoms are being manifested. I've just given you 3 types of data there. Unemployment, no money, poverty. Criminality, if you're arrested, got a criminal record, no job, again going to lead to poverty. And now, Mental health sectioning. If your mental health ain't intact and you're sectioned, again, what the chance are you going to get a 30 grand a year job or 100 grand a year job? Slim. Again, poverty. Socio-economically, there's a pattern here that seems to be manifesting and illuminating real occupational injustices here. And at the heart of it, quite likely, apartheid. Where you have that apartheid pattern similar to what happened in South Africa. The lighter you are, the more likelihood you'll get that privilege. The darker you are, good luck to you. Don't even eat porridge. If this is uncomfortable, folks, I believe it's real. Occupational apartheid. Without doubt, occupational alienation. Because when people like Jerry and me were growing up, all we wanted to do was get to Friday night and have a good time. And Jerry, as a result of having a good time, what was likely to happen on that Friday night to a group of teenagers?
Yeah, we get arrested. When policemen chase us.
And all we want to do is go to the youth club, dance to a bit of soul and reggae music. If we see a girl that we like and she happens to be white, we wouldn't mind chatting her up and say, you want to go out? And she might say, yeah, that's cool, but my dad don't like black people. And we had to swallow that like medicine.
I've had that. I've had that in life as well. Friends of mine who I've grown up with, I had no idea that their parents were racist. But it happens. But one thing I must say, as you and I know, Dr. Blaine, racism is drummed into an individual while they're young. So no one's born a racist. They're taught racism. But the point I'm making is that some people can't change. Because when that father met me, he weren't racist anymore. He couldn't believe that black people were civilized. We are the most civilized nation on this earth from the beginning of time. So people can change.
And here's another trend line. Similarities, race inequality in the UK. Now, some people say, oh, the statistics only reinforce bad things and it's all mumbo jumbo. But there's data that tracks it. And again, at the heart of this, I believe, is issues to do. If a group of people are financially struggling more than other groups, that dealing with that poverty for generations is just tough. And at the last bit here, homicide victim rates per million of the population. Look at this, folks. We're way ahead of other groups. And bear in mind our population numbers are the smallest. And when you look at gender, the pattern is similar. Black women are more likely than other groups to be arrested per head of population. Hey, I'm in higher education. Guess what, folks? The BBC sent a Freedom of Information request to 24 universities in the Russell Group, the top kind of universities in Britain. And at these universities, the data show the average salaries. 52 grand a year for white academics, but hey ho, 38 grand for black academics, and 37 if you're from an Arab background. This means that black and Arab academics at top universities are going to earn a little bit less, 26% less than white colleagues, and female academics fare even worse. Don't believe the hype, go and get the facts for yourself. I've just collated this to deliver content for you. But can you see why I'm a person that has gritted determination? I'm going to turn these statistics on their head myself with the power of force and drive and ambition. And my ambition is for you all. So when you say to me something like, I can't come in today, Sarah, I'm ill, I want to say, uh-oh, they're going to miss content. So I say, please catch up. Liaise with colleagues, please catch up. I want you all to get 100%. I'll take 100% grades to the bosses, and they'll have me in the room talking that grade down. They'll have me in the room. Rowena, come in. Moderation. They'll have me in the room.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Who wants 100%, folks? Woo! Yeah. That's me. That's me. That's the belief I have in you, but you got to have that belief in yourself. You've got to have that belief in yourself. Everyone. Yes? Okay. My journey's not going to be easy, but that's me. But I'm not going to park the bus up as being a lecturer forever. You must be crazy. I'm ambitious just as you, and I'm getting out of it. I'm not going to feed these statistics. You must be mad. Not me. And you the same. Okay, next slide. Now this is interesting because all this comes back to foreigners, the migrants. Well, the OECD, you can't see it at the bottom, they're a big organisation and they look at trends. And what they've studied here is, listen up, migrants make amazing contributions to society, so much so when they get to their countries, when they get to their respective countries, we find that they get a job and they make an impact. Now, what this graph shows that in somewhere like Sweden, the chances are the locals are unemployed at a higher rate compared to the migrants. At this rate here, it means it's tough in Sweden if you're a foreigner, but the locals are really, really unhappy with that. In other words, the migrant populations struggle 15 times worse than, say, the migrants who come to Britain. Come to Britain, they'll get a chance. And here at the far end, it means that here, the far end, I think it's Italy and Hungary, they'll let the migrants kick back while they stay unemployed. They'll kick back. I'm not going to do all that work. We'll let the migrants do it. But chances are here in Britain, they make an amazing contribution. And so you can see this graph to the line. They make an amazing contribution. Jerry, you're from Sweden. Come in.
Right, I'm actually glad you said that. Yeah, Sweden. What can I say? Been here for 20 years. Massive life changer. Number one, you need to learn the language. And the Swedish language is a very difficult and complicated language to learn. There's many words that mean the same, it has the same meaning. You can use it in a different way just by the tone of your voice. Right. As far as employment and unemployment in Sweden, you are judged by your skin color. That's one. They are very friendly in front of you. But behind your back, it's a different story. Asian, I should say, your age. If you are over 50, 60, and you still have that will to find a job, that means you try everything. Here in this country, they do not have this thing called unemployment, where you go to a job center and sit in front of somebody and talk. The situation is different from here. You have to job search yourself on a data system and find contacts yourself. Age is a problem. You will not be employed if you are 55, 60. So if you have a job here, stick with it till you die if you have to. When you do get fired or you leave a job, it's going to be the toughest time of your life to try and move on and better yourself. But like Dr. Blaine said, nothing is impossible. Believe in yourself, because you're the only person that can overcome that situation that you're dealing with.
Thank you, Jerry. Let's move and groove. Okay, so here is JJ Washington. He's your guest speaker, one of your guest speakers today, and this image represents much of the spaces that he occupies in Sweden as a musician, as a model, with production companies that he negotiates and aligns with. Comes from a very artistic and creative family, children who are also in the arts and entertainment industry, and a supportive and loving family. Myself, you've met me and you know of me, but you're learning a bit more today. One thing I am proud of, I was born in Paddington, North London in the 1960s as one of two children of Dominican parentage. My parents would now be regarded as the Windrush generation, along with Jerry's. We're from the same island. Yeah. And they denote the migrant arrivals from the former slave colonies. Hey folks, I'm not going to butter it up. That's what they were. Slave colonies.
Yeah.
And although their ship, the way they arrived in, was called the Escania, which docked in Southampton in 1957, my father is still alive, and my mother, she died 15 years ago. In 1991, I trained as an occupational therapist at the London School of OT. I've got a link here to the left. I'd like you to really, in your spare time, go to it. It's my publications, activism. Keep giving it a like, share. The higher the numbers goes up, the better for me. Jerry, away you go.
Right, to explain a bit about how we avoided prison, and just a bit more about our neighbourhood called Kilburn. Maybe a lot of you have heard of Kilburn, Stonebridge, Harleston, and these neighbourhood areas. Kilburn Park Station brings back many memories. This is our basic means of transport for underground if we want to travel. In the early 70s, I can just put it like this. Kilburn Square, Kilburn Park Station, these areas were the worst areas that one could decide to take a walk down the street. Even in the day, mid-afternoon, mid-evening. You had a lot of racism. Skinheads used to run this neighborhood. But it still brought me back great memories. This is where Dr. Blaine and me...
Yeah, let me complete that bit of humour. Let me complete that. Age probably 9 or 10. This is where I probably made my first bit of coin, street hustling. It's called Penny for the Guy. Bonfire nights. So I would be here with a football as the head of the guy and a stuffed jumper. And Jerry and my big brother, they would be like the Ponces, you know what I mean? You gotta stay there, put in your shift. We'll be across the road, you know what I mean? We'll come and check on you every so often just to make sure that the collection of money is building up. It's great that we can laugh about it, but that little bit of pocket money was food. Jerry, continue.
Absolutely. And this is where we first made our penny for the guy. We were all happy. We had to put in a bit of work. That's not called street hustling. It's called a way of life. It's the modern thing that most English people do. Bonfire night, penny for the guy. We're going to jump to the second picture on the right. That area we could never forget, because if you took a right turning, you would end up at Paddington Recreation Ground. If you went straight ahead towards the bridge and further on, you would end up going past Kilburn Park Station towards Kilburn High Road. These neighborhoods, I must point, if you go to the left, you'll end up in Kensal Rise. This is our main neighborhood where that bridge, Mr. Shaky Bridge, we grew up running across this bridge. This is a well-known area for us. We grew up where we made friends. We met people in that block of flats right in front of you called Gloucester House. And on the left would be Hereford House. even if it's out of the picture. These were our neighborhoods. There you go. There's Gloucester there on the right. That's still Gloucester there in the middle. And the photograph on your left, that's taken from an angle where that small, I shouldn't say the small. The building on the left in the corner is Bronte.
This one, yeah.
The one, yeah, Bronte House. The one in the middle is Austin House, and the one on the end is Dickens House. And that big square thing in the middle was the school Dr. Blaine went to.
Yes, correct.
That was called South Kilburn High School. Those places don't exist anymore. But they bring back great memories, tough times. Lots of bad things were happening in the 70s. I must stress to everybody that as you see me now, things have happened in my life. I have not always been the person that I am today. I can stress that life in Kilburn or anywhere in London could have never, and maybe even today, for you young people, you say it's difficult and hard, but imagine this. Try to go to work Monday to Saturday and come home with a wage of £38. Then you tell me if life was hard or easy, then or now. Think about it.
Keep it going, sir.
Right, we're going to go straight to the left top picture. Funny. I remember the days. This is Blake Court. This is Dr. Blaine's and my neighborhood. The top floor. Dr. Blaine's got this arrow. He's on the left.
Yeah, I'm tucked in here somewhere, or that along here. Yeah, tucked in here.
Dr. Blaine is on the left.
That's right, down here. Correct.
Yeah, on the left.
Mm-hmm.
And if you count four squares to the left, 4 squares to the left, you'll find his door.
Yeah, down here.
My door was like only 2 squares, so mine was like halfway in between the middle.
Yeah, right here, along here, just here, isn't it, Jerry?
Yeah, right there is exactly right.
Jerry's
with
from
a neighbour.
Jerry's from a family of what, 6? 3 brothers and 1 sister.
Yeah, six. That's right. Yeah. Family of 6, but yeah.
Yeah.
That is quite a lot of us.
Yeah, and there was 4 in our flat. So
and 4 in yours.
So
we lived in this neighborhood growing up. Sorry, Dr.
No,
Blaine.
keep it going.
Growing up in this neighborhood, we had fun. We found things to do. Look, I'm not saying I was always that good person. I got carried into things like being a hustler. I used to be a hustler, and I won't tell you what I used to hustle. That wouldn't be righteous of me. I was promoting bad things. Blake Court was our safe haven. Mother and father were serious about where we could go to hang. So, coming from school, removing our school uniform, and maybe only staying on the balcony. This is our safe haven because of the things that were happening. But even the surroundings, we had a great upbringing because we had activities. We made activities. We didn't go out and steal. We didn't go out and hurt people or rob people. We found activities to keep the mindset straight. So even I don't live in Leeds. I've never been to Leeds. I've had friends from Leeds, but they were gangsters. So it's not the same kind of concept. However you live in your life, be positive. Do not be destructive to yourself. And always think of something that you love to do. Set your mind, set your energy, set your focus, and keep the faith in keeping you straight to achieve something that you want to achieve. Selling drugs doesn't work. So I've been there. I've never been to prison. So I'm giving you a warning. All the individuals, whether you're sitting in this group of with this university listening to this conversation, and the people who are listening to me outside this conversation, I'm just going to give you a bit of advice. When you think you're doing something beneficial to earn money, and you know it's wrong, then you've already effed up your future, because you are stuck in something that you think you're gaining, but you're losing. Furthermore, you bring more attraction to yourself by the police, the drug fiends, and the community who are neighborhood watch. You've got to keep yourself clean. Focus as black people, as white people, as young individuals. The world needs a good future. It needs a better future, and you are the future. The young people, 20-year-olds, between 11 and 18, 20-year-olds who are killing each other, wrong. Need to stop it. So if you know any colleagues that you can get through that are doing these things, look, I'm living proof. I'm 60 years old, right? I'm living proof. I've gone through things and changed. Our neighborhood, so-called Malvern Road, these pictures that are in front of you illustrating our life, Dr. Blaine's life and my life. If we take the Malvern Road on the right, this is the neighborhood I know. This is what we were surrounded by. We didn't have everything great. We had the Irish and blacks in Kilburn, where sometimes we used to have a feud. And across the road, on the left-hand side of that picture, on the right picture, the Irish families used to run one side of the street, and black people on here, where we are, Malvern Road, this was Dr. Blaine's and my neighborhood. Everyone was unified.
There was a pecking order. Respect, morals. The morals is sewn into us by our parents. Deep set of right and wrong, and you wouldn't challenge your parents. But you get some free time, maybe a bit of go to the shop and come back. But when you went to the shop, you kind of delayed because you were pilfering, you were skimming some of the change of what your mum and dad gave you. You go into the arcade shop, play the machine, buy some chips. You would delay. But there was a pecking order. You respected so and so because that was their bigger brother, and that bigger brother was linked to related to that person, and so on and so forth. And you'd have to respect the elders, even if they came over as bullies. I remember stepping out of one of these shops, and a big youth said, "Hey, boy, you know where the recording studio there? You know, it is not around here somewhere."
Oh, yeah.
I was about 9 or 10, but I mentioned that to Jerry because Jerry's a musician. The recording studio, Jerry.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, down the road, what can we say? Well, we don't have a picture of it. But if that photograph on the right, if anyone could have that imagination like Dr. Blaine and me, if you walked straight down that street, opposite, on the left-hand side, there's a pub called the Chippenham Pub, and on the right used to be Midlands Bank. Directly across the road, that was our safe haven. That was Front Room Studios. And that caught my ears when I found that there was a studio at the end of our block. I started to hang out there every day. But I must say, music saved my life, that's given me the will, and to have this musical company I have today, that we help artists. That means we might produce them, we might record their videos, set them in the studio, and release their music. But we do not sign them. We help them on their journey. So if they decide to approach a record company and try and get a deal, we just thank you. It's great. Do your thing. So without having that studio at the end of Malvern Road, I wouldn't be where I am today. So it's fantastic.
We're going to segue forward now because we're going to obviously work towards the end of the presentation as we welcome Kalima in. But we wanted to sort of give you some images of the successes from the neighbourhood, because not only have Jerry and myself moved away from Northwest 6 or Northwest 10, and we've come out of it unscathed against the backdrop of the stereotypes, the prejudices, and the sad statistics. It took me 10 years from getting my PhD, 2010 to 2020, to get a job as a lecturer in a university, folks. 10 years of rejections because somehow I can't communicate at interviews. Can you believe that? Yeah? Somehow there's a better candidate than me. Somehow someone hasn't done a background check to know this guy has pulled himself up from his bootstraps against all odds, avoided prison by my wits, intelligence, and morals.
Morals, yes.
To get into an interview room, studied hard and fast, and still collecting rejections like it's confetti. Am I going to just sit in this job grade for the rest of my career? You think so? Not in your Nelly. See you later. Rowena, is that okay, by the way? So far, Rowena? Can your group hear? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine, thanks.
Very good. Well, look out now for some of the other success stories from our neighbourhood. Here we go. Of course, JJ Washington and his production company Bob Lonica, based in Sweden, putting out a range of platforms. As he said to you, even his company's moral approach isn't to tie people down to a commercial ball and chain. Unearth the talent, free them up, and away they go. Jerry, correct?
Absolutely. You can probably at the end of this, I will leave some information with Dr. Blaine in case anybody would like to contact me via mail or telephone, or need advice of how to move forward, or any contacts in London. I still have them, even if I live here.
No problem. And this is my story. Something I need to say, just as music was really powerful for Jerry in terms of occupational engagement, sport was the vehicle for me in terms of occupational engagement. Imagine that you get infused by it, you start to engage, and it takes you somewhere. I played for the school, the district, the county, and national trials. A schoolboy with Brentford Football Club. Also good at basketball, but that little school in a housing estate generated the most talented basketball players in the district at one time. Generated. So the PE teachers would have us in every morning, 5 days a week, and we just did it. And the lunchtimes we'd run to the cage and sweat out playing football, come back. So it was basketball in the morning, football at lunch, and then afterwards, if we could find a game on the estate, on the way back from the shop, or on the way forward to the mum. So music and sport. And I'm doing a research project at the moment that's studying what role did music and sport play in the lives of the post-war generation, people who regarded themselves as working class. Because I have a hypothesis that music and sport could be fishing, darts, football, basketball. What role did that play in your mums and dads' lives, for example, to help them to be the people they are today? And that's I'm really close to putting that research submission in. Physios, do you like that, Rowena? Do you like the sound of that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, good. So, some more. Meet Nux, the British rapper with swag in his bones. Any of you aged 18 to 25, this guy is lighting up the music industry at the moment, and many of his videos are backdrops of the South Kilburn estate. Correct, Jerry? Come in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nux, just one of the boys from the neighborhood. Later down in the years, these are the young artists that I respect, all sorts of artists, but he's from South Kilburn, very talented individual, very well focused. Don't know much about his background, but by watching, I see where he's coming from. Very positive, very injective.
Jason Roberts, ex-footballer with West Bromwich Albion, Blackburn Rovers, Wigan, now MBE, a director at Concussor based in Miami, come from a footballing family. Cyril Regis was his uncle, Dave Regis was his uncle, Otis Roberts played in Hong Kong, was his agent. I went to school with Otis, played in the same team as Otis. And we're friends today as part of the Jason Roberts Foundation. Success, folks. Success. Anyone know who this chap is? Seal. Jerry, tell us a story.
This gentleman, everyone knows him as Seal. I'm going to keep his real name to myself. Yeah, Seal and I, we went to school, same school together, same class. Sat beside each other, always spoke about music. Very, very proud of this individual. There's some secrets that I can't tell you, but yeah, very genuine individual. And we are, I shouldn't use proud because it's not in my criteria of words. We have pride in what we do, what we were doing, and what we have done, and what he has achieved from the beginning of working with Adamski, recording Killer all those years, stayed at number one, 20 an odd year, an odd weeks, I should say. That made him a star, and he continued his career till the 90s. We don't have contact, but I know he's still in LA, and he's doing well.
The next slide how Jay-Z and the Harder They Fall writer, director, composer James Samuel created the sonic signatures of the Black West. Jay-Z, as you all know, multi-millionaire, billionaires, music icon and businessman, collaborated with this chap to write a Hollywood hit movie, and the music behind that. That composer is from Kilburn. He's the the brother of Seal.
Of Seal. Yeah. Yeah, one of our close friends, David. So it goes to show you, be ambitious. Follow your dream. Focus on what you want. And there's our old friend, Cyril
Regis. Yeah, absolutely. If ever there was a role model for me, it was Cyril Regis, a former professional footballer, England international. Now his legacy lives on with the Cyril Regis Trust, and they do amazing work. And he became a top footballer. And this is who he was. And this chap here, we feature in our trigger. His book is in the library, and it would be part of your trigger. Stephen Graham. Documentary maker, writer, reformed criminal, I should say. Is that correct, Jerry? Reformed.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And he was incarcerated in Jamaica when an altercation resulted in the loss of life, and he served time in prison. He's a campaigner now for better prison reform in Jamaica, and he's recently won a big award for his documentary making. It's at the heart of the trigger. We lived in the same floor of that Blake Court that you can see.
Yeah.
we've come to the end, and I want you to go to this particular poll everywhere, if you don't mind. If you can zoom in. When poll is active, respond to this particular poll. So take a phone, picture phone, get this, and I want to go to the app and share it on the screen. How has your understanding of black males in the UK context changed as a result of what you've learned today? And when Kalima comes on, you'll hear other startling statistics that I never mentioned about the incidence and the presence of black males in the prison population. But it gets us to ask, we must be curious to ask the why questions. Why? Why? Why are black people more unemployed than others? Why are black people more likely to be arrested than others? Why are black people more likely to be sectioned in the Mental Health Act 1983 than others? Why do we suffer with high blood pressure more than any other ethnic group? Why do we suffer with type 2 diabetes more than any other ethnic groups? Why are we more likely to be near the people that suffer with obesity and other circulatory diseases than other groups? The why questions must be answered or researched as future researchers. You must be curious about these things. Why, when given childbirth, are black women more likely to have stillbirths more than any other ethnic groups? Why? Rowena, physios, are you surprised by that why questions I'm asking? Is it connecting with that curiosity, Rowena, with your class? What's the feedback with my passion? Is it getting through? It can't just be all personal responsibility, surely. We got high blood pressure because we eat rubbish. We're obese because we don't exercise enough. Yeah, that personal responsibility, like, almost sounds like a conservative politician. I used to be one, by the way, but I'm reformed now. No longer. Let's see if we can get this going. I'm going to see if I can pull up the app. Excuse me for a minute. Where can I find this? Poll everywhere. Poll everywhere. Poll everywhere. Poll everywhere. I'm looking forward to getting this up on the screen. Ooh. Uh-oh. Come on. Uh-oh. It didn't work. No, it's pulled me on another one. Sorry, I have to activate. Apologies. Sorry, folks. Just bear with me, please. We seem to have a little bit of a technical hitch again. Apologies, but the old. I set this up, it looks like on my laptop, and then it's given me another thing. So sorry about this. What I'd like you to do, if it's okay with you, just share with us for the next just 2 minutes before we finish some of the feedback. Let's go around the room. let's go around the room. Let's go around the room. Let's go around the room just to get some of your feedback. Rowena, if anyone wants to put anything in the chat box, that'd be fair enough. Anyone wants to put something in the chat. But how has your understanding of the black males in the UK context changed as a result of what you've learned today from Jerry and myself? There might be more to learn, folks. You can't be all reformed as a result of coming to class today. That's a laugh, folks. It's a lifetime. We're all a work in progress. Let's have some feedback from around the room, please. Let's go. What have you learned today? You've been really good opening up earlier on. Now this is the end part. Anything, please. Time's ticking, please.
That it's our responsibility to make sure that we do learn and challenge practices wherever we go to work.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That's a really good one. Brilliant. Thank you. Any more? Let's go. Keep going.
One mistake in life doesn't mean that you can write off your life. You can, things can change. Just stay positive.
I like that. I often have a proverb: where you start doesn't mean that where you end. I benefited from social housing. Every time I drive through the Bermontofts, I look at the estate and I go, home, it's like E.T., Every time I see somewhere that looks like Kilburn or housing estate, Jerry, I'm like, boy, I just want to park up and go through there and walk, I want to go through. Home. Where you start in life doesn't define your end if you don't want it to. Yeah?
Right.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
So that's really powerful. Come in, please.
First, I want to give you a quote that was my high school motto. It's Raspicate for now, keep the end in you. I thought that was really good for what you said.
Oh, sorry, can you speak louder?
Sorry, I just wanted to start off by giving you my high school motto, which was Raspicate for now.
Raspicate for now.
Raspicate for now. It's not it.
Yes.
Keep the end in view.
Keep the end in view.
I always think about that as I
Yes.
have struggles. But what I took from this lecture was to always be critical, and instead of just taking information at face value, just ask those questions of why is this statistics like this? What can I do to change this? And why is this information being presented this way? Basically.
Yes. Good point. Any more feedback, please, especially from the ones that haven't said much. Any thoughts?
I suppose it's just awful that people are, I feel like sometimes I can live in a bubble because the people I associate with.
One conversation, please.
The people I associate with are quite kind, that it's just until you hear people's stories and realise that people are going through so much nowadays.
Yes.
That it's just terrible that it still goes on.
It still goes on. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
I think just learning about the backstories of people, and I think what you were saying about the sport as well, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, you're occupational therapist, so you've got to find interventions that can work for your client group. You might have client groups that are black men, and you've got to find something that can connect with them, help them come alive. Jerry's spoken about music, being in the studio time. A lot of young people want that. Football, for me, I helped to engage with communities when I became a campaigner, activist, and a politician. Football in the community, really, really helpful. Really, especially for families that can't afford the fees. Grassroots sports is a lot of money. A lot of money. The richer you are, the more likely your child's going to represent Britain at the Olympics or become a footballer, because you've got all that petrol money and petrol costs and training to get to. If you're poor and hard knocks, you rely on other parents that carry your kids to sport, So, brilliant. Last week you worked with Marcel and you used arts and creativity, that was some of you. So, you've got to find something that makes that connect. Any more feedback, please? What have you learned today?
So obviously I'm from South London, so I'm from a very diverse area, and I think this again highlighted what I found when I moved to Leeds, of racism is so much of a bigger problem than I thought it was living in South London, because it's a completely different culture, and I found moving up north there's so much more casual racism and people saying things like I'm not racist, but, and then saying something racist. Some kind of subconscious bias.
Yes.
And people were saying, saying a lot of, oh, I'm not racist, and then like not even kind of really being aware of the kind of undercurrents of what they're saying and why they might be saying that and where it's all come from.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you. Good point.
Yeah, I think that's really.
Where are you from? What part of the world? Halifax. Okay, cool. Any black people in your road?
No.
0? Yeah. Yeah, cool. But is Halifax, it's getting mixed, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it's quite a.
Yeah, it's getting mixed. Cool.
It's nice to be mindful of people having a background that you're unaware of. So just being mindful that people are different and they might have been through struggles that you don't necessarily understand.
Bear in mind, many would say this is liberal, the lily-livered liberal. We've got to say it as it is. But we are occupational scientists. We've got to have all the evidence to make our own minds up. When I went into a room where people were drinking alcohol and having a good time, the room was full of English Defence League supporters. Yeah, so a whole big furore came. Blaine Robin's in a room with the far right. People without a membership badge. Because there's no membership badge, it's just people in there, some of whom are Labour infiltrators, MI5 infiltrators, but they target me. He's walked into the room. But as I said, each of us are only one person removed from an extremist. We know someone that can't stand the sight of black people. It's real. But we have that kind of inner calm to overcome it. Positivity all the time beats negativity. Positive. It can weigh you down working twice and 10 times as hard. I'm finished with this working 10 times as hard thing. I'm finished with that. I'm going to be smart how I work because I've got a health. I've got 3 stress-related illnesses. Now, I'm sure that's come through working twice as hard. In other words, it's going to have a cost on our life. Jerry, come in.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Working at a young age, what can I say?
Yeah.
It depends what kind of job that you have taken on board. Me, started working at the age of 11 in the school that I went to. And do you really want to work from a young age till you're 65, 67, and maybe your body's damaged, you're damaged in health, or psychologically? How are you gonna outlive the rest of your life as a grown up? We don't call it, in the West Indies, we don't call ourselves old people. We are old and wise. So, if you're working from a young age, bit of advice, look after yourself. You might look like me at 60. Eat right, sleep less. We spend too much time sleeping. God never put us here to chill. We're here to find the purpose of our missions. We all have a mission. Every single one of you, brothers, sisters. I didn't say white or black people. We are all brothers, we are all sisters. We're all on a mission. Your job is to find it. Find what suits you. The Dr. Blaine says, you don't want to burn out your body. You cannot enjoy yourself later on when you decide not to work anymore. So take good look after yourself. I say this, stop worrying about the things that you cannot change. Worry about the things that you can change.
I think this is a good note to end on. I want us to give Jerry a big hand.
Thank you.
Well, we ran over, and that was because of a technical glitch. But thank you all for your patience. The morning continues. Kalima, apologies for running over, but I know that it's created an opportunity as well for you. I'm going to suggest a 5-minute toilet break for a lot of people in the audience today. And Kalima, is 5 minutes okay to resume?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Thank you so much. Jerry, you're welcome to stay in and stay on camera because Kalima's got some awesome feedback to write. But if you need a break yourself, please take one. Much appreciated. Rowena.
So, Dave, I'm just going to play with the slides. Can you let me know if you can see them?
Okay, no problem. I'll let you do that. No problem. No problem.
I'm gonna take 5 minutes.
Yeah. Kalima, that's great. It's on the screen. No problem. It's there.
Can you see that? You can't see the presenter view. You can just see the notes, right?
I can see you. I can see you at the top of the screen. No problem. And I can see the slides, the PowerPoint slides. There they are.
Yes.
I'll show you.
All right. Cheers. Thank you.
Great. Brilliant. No problem. Great.
Really not diverse.
Yeah, of course.
One, over to you. I'd like to introduce you to Kalima Ibrahim, Londoner like myself. Away you go.
Hi, so my name is Kalima Ibrahim. So I'm an occupational therapy lecturer at University of East London. I'm not actually in London. I actually grew up in Buckinghamshire in High Wycombe.
Oh,
and moved to
so
London.
sorry. Oh dear. Oh.
I do live in South London now, though, for the last 15 years, but that's fine. Technically, I'm a Londoner. That's okay. So the learning outcomes for the session. You've got the slides as well. So we'll just go through talk about the role of occupational therapy within the prison system as well. Okay, so I'm an occupational therapist, also a lecturer, and also the course leader for the BSc full-time programme at University of East London, which only started in September. I'm a doctorate student as well, and my research is in prisons, and I've worked in health and social care in acute community, physical, mental health, also in public health, quality improvement in prisons. I have an interest in public health, prisons, and non-traditional and kind of role emerging occupational therapy roles. And I'm also the council member for England and also chair of the England board for the Royal College of Occupational Therapists, or the British Association of OT as well. Okay, so I've worked in 3 male prisons, so high security, remand and sentence prisons, and also young offenders institutions. So you'll hear me say YOI, which is young offenders institution, and that's between 18 and 21, and categories A, B and C. So HMP Belmarsh, which is in London, so you probably maybe heard it on the news, HMP Tameside and HMP ISIS, which is all 3 prisons in South East London. Can you hear me okay? Is that all right? Yeah. Okay, that's right. Okay, so the prison population. So in terms of prisons, they look at England and Wales. So the prison population at the moment, is one of the most deprived groups as well. So as of the 25th of the 11th, 22, there's approximately 83,000 people across the 117 prisons in England and Wales, and 3.9% of those are female. So there are some female prisons, and generally a lot of the female estate is in Surrey, the Surrey area, the south area of England. So, and also the average death among the general population is about age 81, but it's 56 among prisoners. And now they've changed the age of old age, so it's categorised in the community as 65, but in prisons old age starts at 50. So obviously there's lots of health issues as well amongst the prison population. So it's 15 years difference from the prison population to their peers in the community. So in terms of categories, so categories is in terms of security. So we have category A, so they'll be your more high security prisoners. So, your kind of murders, the ones that are going through the sentence, kind of high profile cases as well, and kind of rape and things as well. So they're identified to be the most at risk to the public should they escape, and also the police and national security, and how likely are they to harm themselves or others or prison staff as well. So and it's also designed to make conditions impossible for them to escape. So they do that within the prison. They do a risk assessment really for each prisoner coming in, And then you have a category B, which is still high security conditions, but it's a little bit more. It's not as high security as the category A. And then you have category C prisoners. So they're also prisoners that can't be trusted in an open prison, but they're unlikely to make any attempt to escape. And generally, they have a couple of years before they're released as well. And also category D, sorry. So your open prisons generally, and it's low risk and to the public as well. So, and they can be trusted in open conditions. So in part of their rehabilitation, they will be able to go out to work or go home for weekends and come back. So they're trusted in terms of that until the end of their sentence. Okay, is it moving? Okay, so, and in terms of female prisons, the categories are a little different. They're just called closed conditions or open conditions. So it'll be high risk, so categorized as restricted status, and they'll only be in a closed prison. And in exceptional cases, women and young adults can be held in a high security male prison, depending on their risk to security, but they will be isolated from the rest of the male population. Okay. And so most prisoners are likely to have experienced what we call ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, experience homelessness, excluded from school, and more likely to have unmet health and care needs in the community. So generally might have long-term conditions as well, lots of mental health issues. So just going back to ACEs, sorry. So they're potentially traumatic events that occur in childhood from age 0 to 17. For example, experiencing violence at home, abuse, neglect, or witnessing violence, having a family member attempt or die by suicide, also included in aspects of the childhood environment as well. So undermine their sense of safety, stability, like bonding as well. So attachment issues, growing up in households with substance misuse, mental health problems, instability due to parental separation or household members being in jail or prison. And also ACEs are linked to chronic health conditions, mental illness, and also substance misuse as well in adolescence and adulthood, and can negatively impact on education, job opportunities, and learning potential as well. And generally, those people who experience ACEs, if there isn't any intervention, then they pass on all of those issues sometimes to their own children, and that's how the cycle really continues. Okay, and so prisoner health. So there are a range of health and social care needs within the prison. Lots of reduced mobility, so lots of physios there. So we have physio as well that work in the prisons, so especially with the aging population as well. Lots of injuries, including trauma. Dog bites is a big thing as well. Lots of hamstrings and being taken out by dogs. Maybe that's generally, obviously people running from police and things like that. So that impacts their mobility as well, and also the healing process. Lots of cancer, also palliative care. We would have to, obviously people dying in prison as well, so we'd have to support people in that instance. Lots of mental health conditions, self-harm, substance misuse, so learning disabilities and learning difficulties. So your learning difficulties would be your dyslexia and things, and your learning disabilities would be more your global development delay as well, will be included in that. So ageing in prison is a big issue at the moment, so over 60s, and it's the fastest prison cohort as well, and it's increased by 82% in the last 10 years. Generally, it's historical sex offences, so that's 243% in the last 20 years, the older population as well. So lots of ageing, obviously lots of dementia as well. And obviously they're thinking that these numbers will increase and there is greater health needs. And now what's happening is it's the health burden within the prisons. So generally they're not used to dealing with this older adult population with all the multiple needs that they have as well. So, and also life sentences as well. So people aging, so those people who have fixed term tariffs that might be serving 20 years or so, gone in there obviously younger, and then they aging in the prison system as well. So then they have also all these other comorbidities as well. So there's a large amount of prisons were also built in the Victorian era. So there's lots of environmental challenges in terms of accessibility, like I said, your comorbidities, polypharmacy, multiple medications. They might be taking, medications for blood pressure and also other, other conditions as well. So lots of obviously prescriptions being issued within the prison that they didn't usually have. And also lack of age-appropriate work and activity. So with the ageing population as well, a lot of the work within the prison might be working in the kitchens in terms of cooking, cleaners, lots of labouring in terms of cleaning up the grounds and things. So quite labouring, like manual work as well. So as prisoners are ageing, there's not much work for them to do and not much activity. So in these instances, they are staying majority of the time in their cells as well. So some of them might stay 23 hours and then you have that 1 hour to come out. So people usually come out for education and work. And if they don't have any work, then, or they're not able to do the work, then they don't really come out their cells, especially during COVID times as well. And also, reduced health, that also links to reduced health and well-being as well. And also there's an increased amount of external medical appointments for secondary care. So they need escorts. So often, appointments being cancelled and rescheduled due to staffing because of the volume of appointments that are coming at, that people need for secondary care as well. That might be for cancers, for your long-term conditions in terms of, neurological conditions. They might need to go and see like their neurologist and things. And obviously they have to meet those needs as well. So there's many different issues. So if you look at here, so this is some pictures I've taken online really for some prisons. So this is the environment that you're looking at as well. So if you're thinking about accessibility, especially in terms of mobility issues and aging population, the amount of stairs they might have to go up, narrow doorways and things as well. Even for wheelchair users, there's only a certain very small amount of wheelchair accessible cells in just a few prisons as well. So access is a big issue. And it's generally, you have to walk quite long distances. So if they're in their cell and they need to go to healthcare, for example, it's quite a long walk for them to get to as well. And brain injury is a huge amount in the prison. So estimated about 60% of men with brain injury, and that's from mostly from trauma as well. And 74% in the YOI, so that's 16 to 18 group as well, could be from whatever injuries they had. Some of them obtained their brain injury in the prison, and some of them obviously could be a result of the reason of going to prison or what they've obtained during childhood. And children with brain injuries, so increase the risk of mental health issues, including self-harm. And the women is a huge amount, so it's 78% of women in prisons with brain injury, and 89% of those is repeated injuries, usually from domestic violence. So those who have obviously had domestic violence at home, any kind of head injury, and so 89% of those as well. So it's a huge 78% of brain injury in the women's population in prisons. And also, like I said, some might obtain it while they're in custody as well. And care leavers is a huge issue. So now about 25 to 50% of care leavers enter the criminal justice system. So they're 10 times more likely to go to prison by the age of 24 than those who have not been in the care system. So going back to those ACEs, those adverse childhood effects and experiences, so what's happened to them from 0 to 17, generally obviously impacts their life throughout as well. So 25% of care leavers, or social children in care, have had a criminal conviction, as opposed to 13% of those who haven't. And graffiti was a big criminal conviction that they had, whether it be arrested and having a caution for graffiti, as opposed to 13% of those who haven't. So again, going back to the ACEs. There's lots of children in prison, so more children from ethnic minority groups are in prison. So in 2020, 32% of black children, so despite obviously prisoners account for only 13% of the entire prison population, there's 32% are black children in prisons. And also with children's arrests, so 66% of children arrested in London were from minority ethnic groups. I put those in inverted commas, in minority ethnic groups, and I'll come back later on, you'll see the reason why, just in case you're wondering. So compared to 20% of other parts of England and Wales, and 53% of adults arrested in London were from minority ethnic groups as well. And 15% of other parts in England and Wales, so 53% compared to everywhere else, so 15% is a huge number. And some of the data, it says black and mixed ethnic groups, so it's a little skewed at the moment. So a higher population of those of black people have been remanded in custody, and they do get longer custodial sentences, and this is from the Ministry of Justice data from 2021. So, and in terms of the data, so from 2020, so my research is on prisons, I've been looking at the data, and a lot of the data now is they've had black and then they have mixed race separately, so it looks like the numbers are reducing, so the data looks like it's a little skewed, but so I said, like, this is a quote really, says black and mixed race boys across the justice system, so black is 19% and mixed is 21 children in care at higher rates of imprisonment than their white peers, 15%, and all Asian at 7%. So, and this is white children were less likely to receive a caution, and that's obviously 40% of those, or a sentence with no jail time. So you can see obviously the differences there in the sentencing, and that's the Children's Commissioner, which is obviously national government. And also special educational needs. So lots of children do have special educational needs, and they are 9 of 10 of those children in care have special educational needs, diagnosed with behavioural and emotional disorders, obviously dyslexia, and more likely to have been excluded or suspended from school. So 1 in 5 of those children in care have been excluded from schools, that's 18%, and 4 in 5 have been suspended. Quite high numbers. And children in care only make up 1% of the population, but 7% of the 18 to 21-year-old deaths in the UK. And 41% of, so NEET is neither in education or employment, so it's abbreviated to NEET. So it's 41% of those are in care or just leaving care, classified as NEET, so 19 to 21-year-olds, compared to 12% of the general population. Okay, and also, so reading some of the articles from the Children's Commissioners, when the children are leaving care, they talk about they've got ambition for their futures, and there's like an excitement, thinking that, you know, the world's their oyster, but then looking at the stats. So there's a quote here saying, I regularly hear from children in care and those leaving care about how ambitious they are for their futures. So the ambition's there, but it's just obviously the support systems and things that's available to them, and obviously all the traumas and things that they've gone through, and obviously it generally is that kind of pipeline to prison, care to prison. So and the literacy as well of prisoners, so 62% have literacy levels of about 11-year-old, including the but the UK literacy levels are age 8. So generally the generic population, the literacy levels of age 8, the general and the average adult. And 4 times higher than the general population as well. So there's 15% in the general population. So in terms of ethnicity reporting, so this is when the data now, so from 2020 gets a little bit skewed. So so ethnicity is recorded by either self-reporting or as identified by a police officer. So this is from the Ministry of Justice. And it is unclear what percentage of is self-reporting or is identified by a police officer, or how the police officer identifies someone's ethnicity. So, and it goes on to say an officer identified ethnicity can refer to ethnicity recorded by a third party, such as a police officer, a clerk, or a member of the data entry team. So again, this is that perceived appearance of what you look like, then they would obviously say what your ethnicity might be. So again, so now the data is, so looking at the data, it looks like the so that black defendants are continue to serve greater proportion of their original determinate sentence in custody, and that's 67%. But now they've added this mixed category, which officers report, and then you have white, and now they've skewed again, because even broken down to other ethnic groups. So it's like there's a trend of mixed other ethnic groups, Asian. And then it's unclear if there's a Southeast Asian included in this category. And then they go on to sometimes say, you know, Chinese or other, mixed Chinese and other, but it's really difficult. So it looks like the numbers are reducing because, like, this is my opinion from looking at the data, because they've added many different categories of officers reporting, or this reporting of ethnicity by a third party. Again here, so it will say black, it will say mixed race, it will say mixed, it will say Chinese or other, it will say Asian, mixed and Chinese other. So it just, the numbers then start to reduce, but then you want to really look at the data and say, is it actually reducing, or is it because there's so many different categories now that have just been added, really. So that's something to look out for as well. So, and 67% of black defendants serve longer sentences in prison. And again, I talked about just the mixed ones, a bit of a duplication. So that kind of, to me, skews the data a little bit as well. And in terms of custodial sentences, so black and Asian defendants are more likely to receive custodial prison sentences than the white defendants. So in 2020, 19.6% of white defendants received a prison sentence, 26.8% is black and 28.6% is Asian. But then again here, this mixed and Chinese or other ethnic groups, is really unclear who this extra group is here. So remand is when someone's waiting, so they've been arrested and they're waiting for their they're waiting on their court case. So they'll say you're remanded in custody, and then you'll go to court from prison, and then you'll obviously get sentenced. So that's the difference between remand and sentenced. So it says minority ethnic groups are more likely to be remanded in custody at Crown Court compared to white defendants. And in 2020, 52% of black defendants were remanded in custody, with only 36% of white defendants. And this could also be and these are also some of them for the same charge as well. Okay, in terms of homicide, so this is data from 2017 to 18, so 49% of homicide victims were aged 15 to 17, and 37% of those victims were aged 18 to 20 were black. And in 2019 to 2020, 38% of homicide victims were black, aged under 20 or under, 13% white, 24 Asian, and again this other ethnic group, it's kind of unclear if they include mixed race in this group or not. My slides. Okay, and also I don't know if you heard of stop and search, and that's usually when the police would stop people on the street for, they might say they suspect them for doing something, so then they stop and search them then. So about 650 children are stopped and searched in 2018. 75 of them were strip searched, and they were black children, and 25% were aged 10 to 15. So you can see all the extra, all the trauma and things that obviously children are going through as well, and that's that kind of pipeline as well to prison. And in 2020, it looks like the data's dropped, but again, so the numbers have dropped, but it's unclear if this mixed category, how the data is divided. Okay, so again, in double disadvantage, and that was a quote from the Criminal Justice Alliance. So they've done in 2020, they've done some research on black women in prisons, and over 40% reported they have experienced discrimination, less access to employment while in prison, and they said black women in particular were found to have more negative experiences of racism in the prison system, and many respondents had little or no confidence in the system for reporting discrimination and procedural fairness, or staff to understand their cultural needs as well. And there's lots of things again about what the needs are, in particular for different cultural groups as well. So there was a comparison as well. So it says, in comparison to all other ethnic groups, higher proportions of white prisoners reported more positive experiences, including feeling respected by staff, feeling safe from COVID, and having enough, obviously, cleaning facilities. So this was a survey done as part of the research from the Ministry of Justice, looking at prisoner experiences. And they were said, in comparison, white prisoners felt that they were respected and they had positive experiences inside the prison system. So going back to, in terms of my role within the prison, so when the Care Act came out in 2015, there was a prisoner amendment, so Section 23. So every prison, so since 2015, every local authority, if there's a prison in your boundary, the local authority is responsible for assessing and meeting any eligible care and support needs of prisoners. And that will be the same support needs that they might have in the community for their age as well. So in terms of support with that carers and personal care. So that's while they're in the establishment. So depending on where they are in the country, but once they're in that local authority boundary, that local authority then meets the care needs of them while they're in prison. And obviously once they get transferred, it will be their local authority, the area that they've come from, So that was my role with another occupational therapist, and we had an occupational assistant as well, setting up the prison social care service within the prison and what that might look like as well. So you had to work a lot with prison staff as well. It was very challenging in terms of the culture, and also you have your healthcare department in there as well, which is generally NHS. Sometimes they might be private companies, but that's commissioned by NHS England. So and we'd work with probation, obviously prisoners themselves, and we had to commission a care agency to work within the prison, and that was very, very challenging because in terms of security and gaining access, they had to really be stationed within the prison all the time. So so we worked with a service there who we commissioned them, and they stayed within the prison and they did their full-time hours and had to support people. And also we worked with our safer custody departments and also prison services in terms of education and work, looking at reasonable adjustments and how people might be able to participate in education and work and what working activities might be suitable, and also community partners when people might be released or transferred. So there is a difference in terms of prison social care and forensic settings. So when I say prisons, people automatically think mental health, or they automatically assume. So it's not primarily mental health. We will see anybody, and people obviously will have mental health needs as well, but we wouldn't be treating the mental health needs as such in terms of, what an OT might do in general in terms of activity and things. We would just look at solutions, but we're more looking at the environment and how, looking at, myself obviously would be working with one of the physios as well. We look at like mobility, and we look at, how they will participate in the general regime of the prison as well, and look at all of the care and support needs, not just the mental health needs, and looking at personal care, how they might be able to wash and dress themselves, ADLs, said mobility, environment, and also equipment. That was a big issue as well, and how they can obviously participate in ADLs. So assessing their environment. So again, we'd also work with parole boards as well, safeguarding, release planning, and also referrals to other local authorities where their ordinary residents are, where they actually came from, and lots of housing, so lots of homelessness and other community referrals for support on release as well. And some people, when they hear prisons, they think everyone's on a life sentence, but sometimes no, they might be in there for a few weeks, they might be in there for a few years, a few months. It just depends on their sentence, or when we see them, they might be coming to the end of their sentences as well. And sometimes people's needs might arise within the prison, might be due to trauma and things as well, and obviously aging and poor health conditions as well. And referrals to approved premises. So we look at some people, if they're not able to go and live in general accommodation, we might have to look at, these are called them bail hostels. But now they're calling them approved premises. So sometimes we'll have to look at those. And I think there was only 2 that has disabled access. So that was really difficult as well in terms of trying to find accommodation. But we'll work with probation for those. We'll just make the recommendations of what the needs are. And then probation will try to source that as well. And also, oops. So in terms of engagement and participation, so when we say the regime, we mean in terms of the prison, they have a regime where everything has to be done like clockwork. So one of the prisons, you've got about almost 200 men in one area, and obviously there's about, I think, 1,200 I think in one prison, and you've got I think 900 in the other. So you've got a lot of people, so everything has to run. So the officers obviously they need to know, they wake up at a certain time, and everything's very regimented, and they have to go to their classes at a certain time, and everyone has a time for activities. So everything has to run like clockwork to enable the prison to run smoothly, really. So some people have to fit within that regime, and because of various health reasons they might not be able to. So we had to look at what adjustments that we can do, but work within the limitations of the regime. And in terms of reasonable adjustments, so what we did was we trained prisoners, we call them care and support orderlies, and they will provide all of the domestic tasks and also the prompting. So some people got learning disabilities, mental health conditions and things, and they couldn't maybe stick to timetables, and they needed prompting, and they needed someone with them to support them, to remind them, you have to do this, you have to do that. So in terms of cleanliness in the prisons, because of so many people, they have to make sure that the cells are cleaned out minimum twice a week, rubbish is taken out, obviously you don't want any vermin and things like that, so all those things have to be done. So, and if they don't, obviously there's repercussions to that if they're not following the regime. But when those people are identified that they aren't able to participate themselves and need that support, we then train prisoners who are on the blocks with them anyway, and they then had a job. So then we gave them a 2-day training course, safeguarding, basic equipment, care plans, and showed them what they need to do for each person. And then they would be that person. They got paid for that. So then they, got some T-shirts made for them, and then that was also like a sense of purpose as well. So they felt important, and they would also support prisoners. And it was the most trusted role, and it was the highest paid role in the prison as well. So to get one of those T-shirts and to be employed, it was very that sense of purpose and helping. They couldn't do anything underclothes, but they can help someone put on a jumper, but they wouldn't be able to touch anyone or help them with personal care. But they'll be prompting. They can help them in and out of wheelchairs. So we showed them how to do that, and bits of equipment and things like that. Might have to carry bits of equipment to communal areas and things, so they did all of that with the care plan as well. So. And also officers knew, the regime and how that person fitted into that regime. So we couldn't make adaptation to the regime, so we had to adapt what was around the person, really. And also we would have to advise prison custody staff on, what the person's needs might be as well. And association, so they call it association. That's your social interaction with others, and that's outdoors. And also exercise in the gym as well. So some people couldn't socially interact, and we had to put in support for them, someone to support with them to interact and go outside and have their exercise as well. And some people obviously spiritual and religious activities as well, and make sure that they can participate in their whatever events and the church service on a Sunday and things like that. So just to make sure that the person can participate within the confines. Sorry, my throat. It's also, which is quite controversial in terms of segregation. So prison rules, Rule 45, is where it appears desirable for the maintenance of good order or discipline in his own interest that the prisoner should not associate with other prisoners in general or for particular purposes, and that's obviously within the prison as well. So there's an area where people are segregated and they don't have any contact with anybody else, so they'll be in their cells for 23 hours. They wouldn't go to any communal areas. They would have their outside time, but then an officer, the only contact they would have would be with staff, and that would be very, obviously had to be planned, and they would have their outdoor activity on their own, because obviously it could be, generally it's either a safety to themselves, it might be a, quite controversial person, or it could be that, there's lots of violence, or there's a risk to the other person as to the prisoners themselves, to be in the general population. So in terms of that, so when someone is isolated, and sometimes they can be isolated for a long time in segregation, it was also looking at how we can provide safe activity and for them. It's a bit more restricted in terms of security in the segregation unit as well. So just looking at things will help how we can provide activity so that person can still engage in activity as well while segregated, and there might be some work that they can do in their cells. Sometimes it might be packing cards or for a card company. We look for things that they can do within the prison if they want to, just to keep, to try to maintain that, well-being as much as you can in those areas. So in terms of models of practice and assessment within the prison, so we didn't really find a model that could really fit the amount of things that we had to do, because people didn't have choice and inactivity and choice to participate. They had to, or there was repercussions. So we just basically developed our own non-standardized assessment, really, that met all the needs that we needed in the prison. And then we really based it on the PEO model, looking at the person, the environment, and the occupation. So that's how we kind of developed our do you have personal choice in a custodial setting as well. And then we had the regime and security factors to think about as well. And also accessibility was an issue in terms of wheelchair access. So some cells have communal showers, and some cells did have single showers as well. But then sometimes in terms of the environment, we might not be able to get a shower chair in there. So they might have to use a communal shower, so they would need to coordinate with one of our prisoner orderlies to take the equipment to the shower for them, and Also access to education as well. So we'll speak to education and tell them, what things that the person might be able to do. Also work, we'll look at the job that they have been allocated, or what jobs might be easier or can meet their needs really, and also make sure they can get to healthcare appointments, and also the visitor centre for their visits, but they can be long distances, so sometimes we would have to arrange for the prisoners to, we've kind of started to run out a porter service, especially for older people, because the distance is quite long. You can easily do 17,000 steps just going from person to person within the prison, if you've got your Fitbit on. So it's quite long distances, especially in a lot of the older prisons, especially in Belmarsh. And in terms of equipment, so there was lots of risk with equipment. People used to hide things in crutches, so we used to have to really, the physios had quite a tough job to really make sure that they really needed those crutches, and really try to risk assess the needs as well, and they dismantle things sometimes, to make weapons out of things. So we had to, our risk assessments had to be really robust, and we had to come up with an answer for everything already. But sometimes our prisoners actually helped us. We asked them, how would you use this in terms of a weapon, because sometimes your imagination, if you're not inclined in a certain way, you might not think certain things. So just asking the prisoners as well, what would you do with this, and they were telling us things that we didn't even think about. So that was a really good learning curve for me as well. Looking at raised toilet seats as well, perching stools, shower chairs, and also palliative care. So sometimes we would have to get in, get a profiling bed, look at pressure care, look at obviously moving and handling as well. So a lot of my role was moving and handling actually in the prison. And in terms of carers, so the care agency we commissioned, they would have to help people wash and dress. So we had a lot of older people. A lot started to have dementias as well, different types of dementia and cognitive impairments, and they were doubly incontinent, and so they had to put in support plans to help them, with pad changing and cleaning and turning them in bed. Feeding as well, so we used to sometimes speech and language therapists used to come in as well to do feeding plans. So the same sort of things that you might have, like risk of aspiration and things that you would have in the community. So just think about what would be in the community and what would be in the hospitals. You get all of that in the prison, so it's about meeting those needs. And so it's a lot. So our older people did have a lot. Sometimes we did this on a couple of occasions. We did get people transferred to nursing homes for end of life care as well, but sometimes in terms of time, because obviously that has to go through like the Ministry of Justice, it's a whole process. Sometimes the person might pass away, or might be high risk for other reasons, and they would be denied the transfer. So it's about meeting those needs and making sure that the person dies in dignity within the prison as well. Obviously with the trained prisoners for the regime, and also obviously to maintain the person's environment. And we also had to put in telecare as well. So we had people with epilepsy, and obviously, how could they raise the alarm if they are having a seizure? So we'd have to put in like epilepsy alarms and things. We have people with hearing impairments, visual impairments, and in terms of fire safety, they wouldn't be able to hear an alarm and things like that. So they we decided to put equipment in cells, so that, and also falls alarms as well. Especially for older people who are falling as well, because sometimes they might be in the cell on their own, and sometimes a lot of the older people they prefer to be on their own than with a younger person. So you would have from single cells up to 4 people, and it will just be, you might be sharing with anybody, and space is generally an issue, so you would be sharing with somebody as well. So majority of the time you would be sharing, depending on your risk as well. So also telecare was another area that we had to explore and looking at. Also, in terms of SIM cards within the machines, and try to get other ways of, alerting the prison officers and teaching the person how to, especially we had a person that was had a hearing and a visual impairment as well, and trying to communicate with that person who didn't know sign. One person particularly was in and out of care, so didn't learn sign. So it was trying to, try to communicate with that person to get them to understand how to use the telecare alarm, how to, call if they need help, and how to identify as well, the vibrations if there's a fire or anything like that, and the officers need to contact them. So all of those things as well. So sorry, just going back to our trained prisoners, they're supported with ADLs, they maintain the environment and prompting as well, and also for orientation, to orientate the person so they could learn where they need to go, because they would just, in the mornings or the afternoons, they'll be open up and people are supposed to just walk through the corridors and the officers line the route, but they walk and they go to wherever they need to go, healthcare, whether it be, the physio appointment or with the GP or education or work. So sometimes the prisoners, the trained prisoners, the orderlies would have to take them to show them where they need to go as well. And so moving and handling was a challenge. Just going back, I'll just show you the environment. So some of these are some of the environments that we're working with. So these are just pictures online. And sometimes it is quite small environments, and sometimes these, some of the prisons, these are like concrete and they're stuck to the walls. So, and there's only a few prisons a few cells where they remove them so we can get a profiling bed in. So sometimes we're having to do moving and handling with hoisting and like things like sub or SARA steadies and things to get the person up in this sort of environment, and they might be showing with somebody, and it was a real challenge, especially for the carers in terms of back care as well. So we were restricted by space, also security as well, safety. We had to look at ligature risks and make sure that we had a system where, like slings, if slings were being used, that they're taken, the carer collects them, takes it back with them, locks it away and things like that. So it was a real challenge. In some cases, especially our end-of-life patients or our real doubly incontinent patients, we were able to get some of the beds removed, but that wasn't all the time. So it's real space is a real issue, especially they can't knock down walls that you might do in or move buildings. If you're at home, if you work in the community, you can say microenvironment, you can put someone in their sitting room and things like that. But the prison system sometimes, especially overcrowding, you don't just have the extra cell or able to put that person on their own as well. So you can see the space, if this is someone's legs here, and this is the kind of space that you're working in as well. So it was a real challenge. So any questions? So just a bit of a whistle stop tour.
I have to say,
any questions? Everyone's quiet at the moment. I've moved my slides.
I want to first say thank you for a really informative talk regarding the role of OTs in the prison services and your findings as an OT that's worked in that setting. Would you all agree that it's really illuminating and insightful? Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? The parody that there is a sort of paradox of the word justice and injustice, because here we are exploring injustices within the prison context, and the prison context that I have learned today is again about the disproportionate representation of black people within the system, but worse, children. Your trigger is really going to be focused on a young person who's come through the care system, and the challenges I think that Halima talked about is this transition from prison to community, and they can probably leave prison and still have a custodial sentence or some sort of follow-up connected to them. They might have other cases to answer for, and so there's a whole web of services where I think our skills are needed. Well, let's summarise today. Any questions, as Kalima's asked, before we wrap up? Any questions? Any thoughts? Any questions from the floor? Yes,
Do they have placements in prison?
Sorry, do we have clinical, practice placements?
In prison?
Well, considering how many prisons are in Yorkshire, it kind of would be awesome if we could get you in there, but I think maybe safety, security is a risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
We took students, and we generally took final year students as well, and sometimes because their placement generally at the local universities were longer, and they had to then fill out, before they started, they had to do a security clearance first. And that was because of the level of security. So it depends on the security that you're working with the prisons. But generally, they have students. We had students, physio students, nursing students, OT students there that would come. Yeah. And also your medical students as well, used to have those in psychiatry as well.
Any more questions for Halima? Yes, Kalima, yes, we have one.
Obviously, like there's a massive need for OTs within like the prison system, but like how frequently do you find like actual jobs? Like, because like, are there OTs in every prison? Like, or is there budget for them everywhere? Like.
It depends on how services are commissioned. So in terms of social care, that was the department that I was sitting in, and that was because we were commissioned to work in there because it was obviously cheaper as well, because there was 3 prisons in the borough that I was in. So, you know, it was a huge, almost 5,000 people. So, and also you have healthcare, which is your NHS employer as well. So they do come up. Generally, it's very, the resources you might find. I think in healthcare, when I was there was one OT that worked. She worked in all 3 prisons actually, and then in the one that I was in, because we were setting up the service as well, there was 2 of us, and it was almost 5,000 people. So we didn't get to see everybody, but the jobs do come up. But generally, it's people generally stay as well, or they started in forensics, and then they might go into the prison as well. But yeah, they are. But there's 117 prisons in England and Wales, and there generally should be an OT in each prison, and generally is a physio as well to meet those needs. It depends on how the local authority commission the social care element. They might have health and social care mixed together, or they might have it separately.
Okay, going to get ready to wrap up, and just if we can just say a big thank you, give a big hand to Jerry, to Kalima for today. We're all unique. You are all unique. Kalima's probably one of the first ever OTs, I think, to work in prison systems in Britain. Is that correct, Kalima? No, we did. No, not in the prisons. No, but we in the social care. We were setting up the social care service in Great.
But not in mental health. There's lots of OTs that work.
Yes, forensics and mental health. Okay, and Jerry again, all the way from Sweden. We've come from a common path, and we're lighting up the world. And in our own way, and you'll do the same. Thank you very much, Jerry. I'll check in with you in the next few hours. Thanks for everything. Thank you. And again, goodbye. Yeah, bye everyone. Thank you, Kalima. I'm going to ask you to stand outside because I've got to give you your room numbers for this afternoon.